Where'd the number 4 come from?
Great question. So a lot of people always ask me, where did the number 4 come from? And my Uncle Jimmy, Jim Fenton is his name, and he raced 4-wheels. Like, he was a great late model racer in the state of Florida, and his number was 4, but he spelled it out back then, F-O-U-R. And when I went to my first race ever at Dade City Raceway in Dade City, Florida, we were signing up, and I didn't have a number on my motorcycle, and they're like, well, you need a number. What number do you want to be? And they're like, and I told my dad asked me, and I said, well, I want to be number 4, like my Uncle Jimmy. And that's how I got number 4. So I raced with number 4 at my first race all the way up until I went to Ponca City, Oklahoma. That was the first major national that I went, amateur national that I went to, was in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and it was 1987. And they assigned numbers, and they assigned me the number 167. So I raced with 167 all from after probably 2.5 years of my amateur career, all the way through my amateur career, and then you were assigned numbers as a professional. So 97, I was number 70. Then I was winning championships at the pro level. So I was, let's see here, I had number 6 along the way, 9 along the way. Well, in 2000, AMA went to a permanent numbering system. So yeah, you had to have certain qualifications to be able to pick what number you wanted. And of course, when that opportunity arose, I'm like, I want number 4. And so that's the history. There's so much history behind that number with me, and it was crazy. I'll never forget when they went to the permanent numbering system, you could still run that number as a champion. Each year, the history of the sport, if you won the championship, you got to run number 1 the following season. And that was special. I was able to do that. And so once I kind of checked that off the box and I had an opportunity to have number 4, that number meant more to me than being able to basically show off that I'm the defending champion. So it's a long story about how I came up with number 4 and why it's so special to me, but I think the history of it is what makes it cool.
Isn't it crazy how something as simple as a number means so much?
I mean, I'm going to tell you, it means so much, just a number. You think about it like, how'd you get that number? Well, my Uncle Jimmy had it, and he was a great race car driver in the state of Florida and racing late models, a lot of success. He was a wheelman. And then to be able to go to my first race, have number 4, and then, someday have the opportunity to get that number again, it was special.
So you mentioned, you're going to that first race, having to pick that number. Who traveled with you when you were growing up? Was it both your parents? Did they switch off? Who would take you to the races?
So when I was growing up as a kid, it was really a family affair. My mom and dad went to all of my races. There were certain races, depending upon the time of year, actually I should say one race. It was the Mini Olympics. It was the Winter Mini Olympics, which was in Gainesville. It was a huge national. It was like the first national of the year, how the year falls. It was always around Thanksgiving, and that was my birthday. Well, they raced, it was like a week-long race. And my dad, because living in Florida, he would not be able to be there during the week, some of the weekdays. But it being a Florida race, he was able to come up at night, service the bike, and all that fun stuff. So other than those races, my parents were at every single race of my amateur career, professional career, except one as a professional. And it was the one that they missed was in Belgium. It was the Motocross of Nations 2003. Zolder, Belgium is where we raced.
You've quite the memory for all the dates and details and all that.
Yeah, it was, especially that race, it was a special race. It was like the Olympics for motocross. And Motocross of Nations is, they have it every year. It's in a different country every year, and they take the 3 best guys from each country. And I was fortunate enough to be picked for that race 6 times. Raced it 6 times, won it 3 times, didn't win it 3 times. Wasn't able. I was picked 7 times, but I wasn't able to race. One of the times I had a shoulder injury a couple weeks before leading up to that race, but it was always an honor. So that's why I remember that race that they missed, because it was such an iconic race that they weren't at.
Going back to, you mentioned with that first contract, you got, things like a pair of goggles, gear. I heard you didn't like wearing goggles.
No.
Young.
It's funny. Like, what's so ironic is that, like, one of the first sponsors I got was Scott Goggles, and I got like a couple pair of goggles for free and some lenses. And when I was a little kid, I hated wearing gloves. I hated wearing long sleeve jerseys. And I hated wearing goggles.
Like the essentials.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, like, even like to this day, I can get car sick really easy if I don't, like, if I'm not paying attention, or there's like not a breeze in my face. Yeah, I get motion sickness really bad. It's gotten worse the older I got, but I think that was an element to it when I was a little kid, like 5 years old. Like, they're like, my parents are giving me my helmet, and like, here, you need to wear these goggles. I'm like, I can't wear the goggles. I don't feel comfortable with them on, and I just go back to, I needed to feel that breeze in my face. Isn't that crazy?
That is so fascinating. And then part of that story I heard you mention on a podcast. Your dad, one race, you guys came ill prepared. He had to go get a bunch of gear from a bunch of stands.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, we were at one race and showed up, and I don't know if there wasn't numbers on the number plate or something like that, and he had to he's running through the pit area trying to find numbers and going to like the local vendor there, and it was crazy. My parents, they weren't involved in racing really, like, before I started racing, so they didn't know anything about it. So I think that was what the cool thing was about. It was a learning process for them as well.